good way to start this, you think? How would a master photography vlogger start off a photography vlog?
There's a few places that are special to landscape photographers, and Death Valley is one of those places.
Why don't you go ahead and intro this off?
See, I've come just to steal his photo locations, and he brought me along so I could record intros for him and help him with windscreens.
How's it going, everyone? Michael Shamelin here. Of course, I'm with master landscape photographer and landscape photography vlogger, Nick Page. And we are currently walking to some sand dunes to take some landscape photography and video and maybe even a little bit of time lapse. Awesome conditions right now, really awesome. We've got partial cloud. It's a little windy, so we've got some dust blowing on the sand dunes, which is going to be great for photography, but less great for our faces. But it's going to be a blast. I mean, shooting sand dunes is one of my absolute favorite things to do. So right now I just have my 70-200 on here and I'm trying to get a nice telephoto shot of the dunes. I love shooting wide angle photos of dunes, but there's something really fun about having the telephoto lens and just being able to point in every different direction, looking for different patterns and shapes. And the thing about sand dunes is, you know, they're beautiful, but in a sense very chaotic. And sometimes when you're out here, it's hard to know where to point to, in a way, make sense of that chaos. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with the telephoto lens, is I'm trying to find patterns, repetition, textures, and I'm trying to take all of this chaos and sort of simplify it. Really, the possibilities out in a place like this are endless. I mean, it's not one of those places where you just go and there's a viewpoint and there's a few different positions you can set yourself up in with different foregrounds. I mean, this is really, you could be anywhere on these sand dunes and find something unique, something interesting.
Excuse me, sure, you're in my shot. Little S-curve leading to like this crown where the wind is blowing right off that tip.
Light right now is incredible. Each one of these sand dunes is just backlit by the sun. You can see rain coming down in the distance. The wind is blowing all the sand across all the peaks. It almost looks like it's CGI. It doesn't look real. What are you shooting?
Pictures, mostly. Dude, amazing conditions today. I can't believe, like I've never seen these dunes with this kind of light. The only time I've ever shot here before, it was very bluebird, you know? And this, like the sky interest, we have blowing sand, we have golden light.
Yeah,
Incredible.
It was awesome. Super awesome. So I just set up a time-lapse sequence, which I don't really do a lot of time-lapse on sand dunes, but it felt like the right moment. It's incredible. I hope the audio is getting picked up right now. It's really windy. There's some light beams in the distance over here that my camera's capturing, and those light beams are actually made up of rain. So it's rain pouring down the mountains, and it's all getting backlit by the sun. And then in front of that are these beautiful backlit sand dunes. So I'm trying to get all that in the time lapse with this camera, doing a nice 2-second interval because I really want to see that motion. So basically the camera's going to click every 2 seconds, and I'm going to let it run for probably 400 shots, maybe like a 17-minute time lapse run. Alright, so I just got back to San Francisco, got a chance to go through some of the images, videos, and the time-lapse sequence. Awesome day out on the dunes, and I just want to thank Nick Page for sharing the experience with me. Not only is he a great photographer, but also just a really awesome human being. Now I'm just going to go through some of the images. I'll go through some of the technical details behind the images that I shot, and then also give you my thought process behind some of these compositions. Alright, so this first image is one of my favorites from the trip. Really enjoy these diagonal patterns created by the different layers of the dunes, and I love that kind of soft light on the dunes. It definitely helped having that nice dark mountain background. I actually darkened that quite a bit so that the dunes would stand out, and I love that little bit of dusting blowing off the top. So my exposure for this was 1/500th of a second. I really wanted to capture that crisp motion of the sand dusting off the dune, and then I'm using f11 for this shot because I want to get everything in focus. Alright, so here's another one of my favorite images from that specific day, and you'll notice I processed this one quite a bit different, and I felt like in this direction and during this specific moment of lighting, the colors of the dunes with the background just wasn't working quite as well with the composition, so I ended up going with more of a monochromatic type of color scheme here, a little bit blue to kind of create this sort of somber mood. I loved all the motion in this image, all the sand just blowing across all these different layers. For this exposure, I'm doing 1/1000th of a second at f11. Okay, and of course this is the image where the light was just going crazy. Seriously, one of the most surreal moments of the whole experience. I mean, it really did feel like I was in some sort of CGI simulation when I was staring at this in person. I didn't do a ton to the colors here. I think I just bumped the contrast quite a bit, a little bit of dodging and burning to really accentuate those areas of highlights on the dunes, and of course, just incredible moment of the rain pouring down the mountains. So my exposure settings for this one, 1/800th of a second. The difference, I'm shooting f5.6 for this one, I was shooting f11 for the previous. For the previous, the dunes in the foreground were actually quite a bit closer to my camera. These dunes were all very far at infinity, so even at f5.6, I'm getting all of these dunes in focus. And this is actually right before I started my time-lapse sequence, and I like to shoot my time-lapses all at lower apertures. And the reason for that is at something like f11, in my time-lapse, I would end up seeing all the dust spots in my sensor. Alright, so here's another shot of the dunes pointed in a different direction. For this exposure, I'm doing 1/500th of a second, f11, and what I love about this shot is kind of how soft it is compared to some of the other images I shot that day.
I really enjoyed those horizontal wave patterns going across the frame, and I love these two little dune peaks in the background that kind of meet in this V shape right in the middle. And I just wanted to accentuate those blues back there with some of the warmer tones in the dunes to create these nice complementary colors. Even processing the shot, I wanted it to be a little bit more soft, a little bit more blissful. It's much less dramatic than the other images. So I love those little ridges and patterns going through each and every layer. Thank you so much for watching, and of course if you're enjoying videos like these, please consider subscribing, and if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see in the future, please let me know, leave them in the comments. I'd really appreciate it.